It's his name. He will do it, actually, not me. I'm doing something a little different today. I'm going to do a little interview with him, but I'm going to do the social distancing aspect. So I'm going to let him answer everything while I'm asking the questions behind the camera. But he will tell you who he is, and we'll go from there, okay? Hope you guys enjoy. In one. So, tell me what your name is.
My name is Leon Gobczynski.
Where and what year did you graduate from high school?
I graduated from Teutopolis High School in 1971.
What sports did you play in high school?
High school sports were mandatory back in the day that I was there, and that you had to participate in each sport in each of the seasons. So I played baseball, I played track, and I also played basketball.
Talk about your high school basketball career, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior.
Well, not much to talk about with my freshman basketball season, because during that year I was on the freshman team, and I was the sixth man on that team, and I really didn't have much chance to play because we had a lot of great players on that team. But for my season, I guess my most notable accomplishment was that I scored 14 points for the entire season in freshman basketball.
Who were some of your teammates that you played with, and then the coaches and why, stuff like that?
Played with Joe Clark, Fred Nieberge, Pat Dom, Joe Shoemaker, Dan Niemerg, and lots of other cohorts, Paul Wessendorf. We had a really good team. It was pretty senior laden, but we did have some underclassmen.
Talk about the teams and players that you played against in high school.
Played against a lot of great players. A lot of them went on to collegiate careers. We had Mike Winnie, of course, who played for St. Anthony. Played against team players from Shelbyville, played against the #1 rated team in the state from Paris in the sectional at their place, which happened for the first time ever in the history of Paris basketball. And Paris basketball is really quite well known, as they won a state championship in the 50s.
What were your favorite gyms in high school?
My favorite gym was the Altamont High School gymnasium. Just something about it. I liked the bowl situation where they had people sitting around you and kind of on top of you. I always enjoyed playing there the most.
After high school, where did you go to college?
Went to college at Millikan University in Decatur, Illinois, and was recruited quite extensively out of high school. Was making trips to a lot of different places, a lot of different times. Made trips to Texas. I was recruited by SMU, University of Texas at Arlington. Went to Tulane University in New Orleans, Southeastern Louisiana and Hammond, Louisiana, Georgia Southern, SIU Carbondale, Eastern Illinois, and I'm sure I've forgotten a couple other ones.
At Millikan, talk about your basketball career.
Basketball career started a little bit slow, as I was, one of the reasons I chose Millikan was because I wanted to actually play as a freshman. I saw so many times where people would get scholarships and they'd sit on the bench and work hard for 3 years, and then maybe they'd get a chance to play their senior year. And I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to play from the get-go, which was one of the promises made to me by the Millikan coach. And since it was such a great academic college, my mom was really very influential in helping me decide what my priorities should be at that point.
So talk about some of the teammates and the coaches you had there.
My coach was Jerry Gray, who coached with Adolph Rupp, the Baron out of Kentucky. And he was just as gruff and mean as Adolph Rupp ever thought about being. But he taught me an awful lot about basketball. It taught me about situational basketball that is with me to this day. And my teammates were great teammates. Gary Deidelhoff was maybe one of the best leapers I've ever seen in college basketball. Dave Burt's right alongside him. He comes from Clay City and now lives in Florida. We had Roy Mosser on the team, Dan Parker. Dan Parker got a tryout with the Washington Bullets at the time, and Gary Deidelhoff played overseas for a year. And so we had a lot of talented players on that team.
Talk about your teams and players that you played against at Millikan.
Played against a lot of great players. Played against probably the best teams we played against were from Augustana. When I was playing there, they had 2 7-footers, John Lang and Bruce Hamming. They were tremendous basketball players, and I was the fourth shortest person in the league at the time, and that just shows you the type of quality of players that they really that was in the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin, which is different because a lot of people think, oh well, that was the NAIA or the CCIW. Back then, there was only the NCAA Division I, and then there was everybody else, and everybody else was in the NAIA.
What were your favorite gyms in college?
Well, probably the Milliken gym was my favorite gym. It just lent itself to a real nice atmosphere. It was brand new at the time, and that's one of the reasons I went to Milliken, because they opened it just the year before that. And if it wasn't for that gymnasium, I probably would not have gone to Milliken, because I had seen so many great venues in which a player can really play and display their skills.
After college, did you continue playing basketball? Where? For what teams?
That's a great question. I was fortunate enough to, on my way home from student teaching, I was wondering what I was going to do with my life. When I got home, there was a letter on my refrigerator that said, Leon, I'm an agent out of Italy. I'd like you to come play on my touring team for 7 weeks, and we'll find you a job overseas. And that's exactly what happened. And during that time, we played against the national team of Yugoslavia that won the gold medal in the 1980s Olympics, and played against a lot of club teams. And that's eventually where I got a lot of contacts, where I was able to parlay that into contracts for the next 8.5 years.
After pro ball, what did you do as far as a job?
My job starting out was as a teacher. I started out in just doing. I came back in mid-year. That was in December of 1983, and I sub-taught for about a month in the different school districts. And then I heard of a position that was open at 9 in Carristown, and I was fortunate enough to get that to fill out the rest of the year. The following year, I was the head basketball coach at Oblong. The following year, I was the head basketball coach at Beecher City, where we had tremendous talent and ended up being 25-3. And we played the eventual state champions Teutopolis to even through 3 quarters in 2 different games. So we were quite talented, but you know what? We just didn't have the firepower that Teutopolis had.
Let's go back to basketball a little bit, like we've been talking about. What did you learn at the high school level?
High school level, perseverance counts for a lot. Everybody thinks that, okay, you start out, you're going to get to play a lot, you're going to be the star of the team. That's not how it works at all. You need to put your time in, you need to be devoted, you need to be confident in what you're doing. You need to know that eventually this is going to pay off, and that's what I did. I just put myself towards the task and worked hard at it, and was fortunate enough to be able to parlay that into some success.
What about with the college and pro level?
College level, I found out how big pressure could be. When you're the second leading scorer in the nation in 1974 and you're the third leading scorer in 1975, you're going to face a lot of different defenses. You're going to face a lot of criticism. You're going to face a lot of people who are out to knock you off that peg as to who you are, and that's difficult at times. It creates conflict a little bit with not only the other teams, but sometimes with your teammates. And you just need to learn how to do it, which is the maturing process.
Since you played, how has the game changed?
In my opinion, the game has gone downhill in that the three-point shot was instituted to be able to bring a team back from the depths of despair, and now we're shooting 66% of the shots in college and high school basketball are three-pointers, and that takes away from the inside game. I see that there's a lot of people who do not know how to shoot the mid-range jump shots, don't know how to pull up. They all try to get to the basket or shoot the three-pointer. And I think there's a part of the game that's been left behind with that new rule institution that came about in the 80s.
What advice would you give to today's youth about playing basketball?
Practice. I see a lot of players who come out and expect they want to play games, they want to just show up, and next thing you know, they're running up and down the court playing games, trying to run different offenses, when you really need to get your fundamentals in order if you're going to be highly successful with basketball, and that's knowing how to shoot, how to pass, how to dribble, how to rebound, how to box out, how to post up low. And I think some of those skills have been lost a little bit. But there's a lot of old coaches that really remember how that works. And just one of the things I'd like to add to that, the teams that usually go far usually have a pretty good big man inside. And if you don't have one hand washing the other, the inside working well, the outside is going to be easy to shut down. And sometimes when people go cold from the outside and can't make those baskets, that's when they lose the games that they probably shouldn't.
What awards did you receive in your basketball career?
Oh my gosh. Well, I can tell you the awards I won in high school were none. Didn't win one award in high school basketball. Even though I was the leading scorer on the team, I was averaging 24.8 points per game. I was the leading rebounder, but I never received an award in high school. College was a little bit better for me. I won numerous awards. My best award that I won was being an NAIA All-American in 1974. I've got the plaque in the background, if you want to see it back here behind me, just to prove my point. There's just a lot of great basketball players on that. So that was probably my best award that I received in college. Gosh, there's just so many things. Being picked as an all-star, being all conference and the most valuable player of the conference in 1974. I've got that plaque in here somewhere. And by the way, all of these plaques have not seen the light of day for 40 years, Tyler. So it's not like these sit in my office every day.
What was your fondest memory of high school basketball?
High school basketball was the day we beat St. Anthony in the regional final. That was just a tremendous game. Probably my best high school game that I ever played. Scored 41 points in that game. St. Anthony had 2 defeats on the season, and they were both Teutopolis. And we only had 3 that year. One was against the #1 team in the state, one was against St. Anthony, and one was against Quincy Notre Dame, which we made it to the Sweet 16 that year.
What has the sport of basketball done to change your life?
Changed it tremendously. I remember one time I told my mom, I said, can you believe a 9-inch basketball can change a person's life as much as it's changed mine? It permitted me to get an education, to see the world. It's just been wonderful. I've learned things that I had no way of ever expecting to know. And I'm really pleased with what basketball's done for me. And take all that away. Sports is a great lesson teacher as far as what people need to know, getting along with people, knowing how to cooperate, teammates, that type of thing. It's taught me a lot that I've applied in the business world.
What was your best record?
My best record, wow, that's a good one. A lot of people are going to expect me to say, I scored 65 points in a game, or I scored 62 in one college game. But my best record that I own is that in 18 and a half years of college, high school, junior high basketball, professional basketball, I never missed a regular season game for any reason. Well, I didn't miss it for injury. I didn't miss it for being sick. I didn't miss it for being ineligible or being suspended. So that's got to be my best record.
Who recruited you in high school and offered you a scholarship?
Oh gosh, I had literally when I graduated from high school, there was literally a cardboard box full of letters that Coach Carey gave me and said, "Here you go, Leon." He'd been keeping them and not showing them to me throughout my high school career. He just handed me the entire box, and I was somewhat overcome and stunned by the interest being shown. And let me just add one thing to that, Tyler. I thought when I was being 17 years old, you can imagine that I thought these teams were recruiting me because I was good. I thought that, I really did. But the reality of it is they were recruiting me because I had potential. And sometimes that created a little bit of conflict with my teammates because they were saying, "Hey, I'm a part of this team. I should be getting some of these offers that Leon's getting. He's being called out of class. We're talking to coaches during the day, and that's because I had potential. I had a large upside, which I think it's proven out that's worked out pretty well for me.
How did you become so tall?
Well, I grew. No, actually, when I was a freshman, I was only 6 feet tall, and and what happened between my freshman and sophomore year, I grew 4 inches in the summertime. And so from going from a 6-foot freshman to a 6'4" sophomore, that caused some people to open their eyes up. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get some playing time because 2 of the sophomores on that team were moved up to the varsity, Joe Clark and Pat Dom. And so now that being the 6th man on that team, I was now the number 4 man, and that gave me a lot of chance to play in sophomore and JV basketball. And that was maybe my favorite time of playing basketball because I was playing basketball every night of the week, it seemed like. And being able to play and learning as I'm going, and that's really, that was really a great time for me.
As far as college, how tall were you in college?
I was 6'9.5" in college, which is now I'm 6 feet 9 inches tall because I've shrunk a little bit because that happens with age. But yeah, I'm 6'9.5". Great time. Wouldn't trade it for anything.
Describe your coaches in high school. What were they like whenever you were facing some adversity?
Well, Lawrence Carey was our basketball coach in college. I'm sorry, in high school, and he was a great fundamental coach. I mean, the practices couldn't have been any better. We were always prepared for what the other team was going to throw at us. We knew we were so well prepared that I think it surprised some of the teams that we faced. And so that was, in my opinion, Coach Carey's best thing. And he can relate to players. He talked to players, and it's tough being a coach at Teutopolis, as you probably know. Everybody's got an opinion. Of course, we had the uptown coaches back then, and it's difficult. It's a difficult job, and anyone who can do that has my total respect.
Leon, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I'd just like to add that it's great that I'm able to tell my story somewhat. I don't think anybody really knows the entire story, and and I could go on for another 2 or 3 hours telling you stories about being overseas and playing over there, and that's just overseas, not even in college basketball. So hopefully we can do this another time, and I can get into some of those detailed stories.
Leon, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Tyler.